Hey guys, and welcome back to Rage Gaming. My name is Hollow, and today I'm talking about the pits, the new endgame system for Season 4 that we're all been diving into at this point. For most people, I think tier 60 plus is going to be the minimum that we all do, since that's where you get the materials required for all of Masterworking. But above that, I do think most will give it a try, see how far they can go without too much struggle. I like the concept for the pits, but I think there's a lot of valid feedback around rewards and general balance and ways we could make this a better endgame system. In any case, if you happen to want to push a little bit higher, there's a bunch of stuff you can benefit from knowing. I'm currently pushing into tier 120s right now, and so there's a few things I've learned on my way essentially. And I'm going to begin in game here with what I think is very basic but very important, just in case anyone doesn't know, so I'll be quick. The two things you need to have to push high pits is a requirement of armor to reach the armor cap and resistances for all the different elements you're going to face. They gave us this slide that shows that armor is still physical damage mitigation. You're still going to get an 85% cap on that resistance, but now your journey ends when you hit that 9,230 armor mark. Once you've got that, you have reached armor cap. Any more than that doesn't do anything. So in game you can see I've got 9,370. That is because all of my armor is coming from one singular piece that has an affix with armor on it. This could be found on your legs, your chest, or even your helm if it's not an uber unique. Technically as a Necromancer, maybe for your class as well, you might find things in the Paragon or the skill tree that give you extra armor that could help you push over that if you're missing on your affixes. You can also temper for total armor like I have on this chest piece, but ultimately you want to be as close to the armor cap as possible and minimizing how much you go over it. The other thing is element resistance. You get a bunch of this from your jewelry. So we have basic resistance elements on your amulet and then specific ones as well as basic to all. On top of that, we have the gems. Generally everyone's using diamonds because it gives resistance to all elements. And then in your Paragon, you can also find things that give even more resistances to everything. Bare minimum though, 70% in everything. If you're going to push pits, you need to have the max damage reduction, so that's required. Speaking of damage reduction then, there's another massive mechanic. In the final boss fight, the pit boss fight, you have these echoes. I'm going to talk about them in general, but there's different damage types that work here. A major point of feedback and complaint from the community is that these echoes are one-shotting them. And that is because, one, you don't have enough flat damage reduction, so it's going to one-shot you. That's on you. And two, they're designed kind of poorly. I don't like them. I have some feedback for that. But you can absolutely make yourself reduce the damage they deal to you and prevent the one-shot to a very relevant degree. So there is two types of damage reduction. There's temporary or applied to enemies. Take Decrepify. As I apply Decrepify to an enemy, I get a 26.6% damage reduction on those. That's amazing. But those echoes, they're not actually targetable enemies. They don't really exist. They're just doing a mechanic that you can't stop. So any damage reduction you have of that nature doesn't work. What does work is raw damage reduction that applies to you permanently. So obviously with this uber unique, the crest, you get a 20% damage reduction flat out. I'm also running hardened bones, which is an aspect for necromancers that just give you 25% flat out while you've got minions. There are other aspects that can help with this. Something like might is a good example. You get a 20% damage reduction after you use a basic attack, so that applies to yourself permanently, assuming you're always sending out a basic attack regularly. So there are different kinds, and there'll be some specific to your class compared to mine with Necromancer and Hardened Bones. But once you understand that permanent damage reduction is how you stop the echoes from one-shotting you, that's what you want to kind of build into a pit-pushing build. It is required to even survive. Alright, so here's another trick you absolutely need to know for pushing pits. As you can see, I can just pop this elixir here, and now we have this buff. And what is this doing? It's giving me 15% extra max life. I'm also getting some random potion resistant XP increase, but that's irrelevant. 15% extra max life. That's awesome. Just with that, I'm standing at 41,000 max life, which by the way, more max life, technically another way to prevent yourself from being one shot. So awesome, we're running this elixir. But now I'm also running, extra crit strike chance and critical strike damage with this precision elixir. And as you can see, I've got both of them. Maximum life increased and then crit strike chance and damage increased. How am I running two elixirs at once? It's because technically the elixir of anti-venom is a unique elixir. It's not a normal one. And if I want to craft them, you can see that I go to the craft tab and it's under the quest elixir. It is a unique elixir, separate compared to all the others, and that is why it double stacks. To get this elixir, you need to do a specific side quest It's really easy. If you open up your map, come to the bottom left, there is a town called Gearkull, and over here is a side quest. I believe it's called Pinch of Poison. You go speak with the guy, he says, go kill some scorpions, bring me the glands or whatever. You go do that, you come back, and that is literally it. At that point, you now have the recipe to craft these potions. So you just go to an alchemist and spend some resources, whatever, to craft some of these potions. And from there, you can use an elixir of anti-venom, and then it stacks and works with any other elixir because it's a quest elixir, not a normal one. Speaking of elixirs, here's another tip for you. Elixir of Holy Bolts. Everyone knows that this is absolutely busted for a minion Necromancer, but this isn't something you should sleep on if you're a class that doesn't work for. It causes that AoE of Holy Bolts. So when you're clearing in the dungeon part, and you want to clear that as quickly as possible, keep in mind, running Holy Bolts causes an extra AoE. It's a big burst of damage, and it's going to help you clear everything really quick to get to the point where the boss portal opens and you can get to that final fight. And as soon as you get to the boss, you can go ahead and pop a different elixir, maybe something that's relevant to you, increases your damage or your survivability, unless you're like me and you're playing minion Necromancer, and Holy Bolts does increase your damage anyway. Also, this feels really obvious, but I'll at least mention it. Incenses are a thing. They massively improve your output, survivability, whatever it is. You pop it and then it only lasts 20 minutes, and if you die, you're gone. But you shouldn't be dying anyway in a pit for a proper run. So it will increase your DPS even more, and that is very valuable. Another topic then is the pit bosses themselves. There's a bunch of different ones, and you could go into a tier, I don't know, 100 and find yourself dealing with that tree boss and thinking, okay, great, his mechanics are really simple, I understand them, it's not an issue, I can deal with this boss. This time it gives you a different boss. This boss is the one that goes invisible, the trapper one. Cotton absolutely hates that boss. Some builds, some classes really struggle with losing their target for like a brief period, and that boss, it has a mechanic where it just does that. So if you load in and you find that's the boss and it's going to be a problem for you, it might be better to just go, well, this was the wrong run, and reset. Basically what I'm saying is some builds really struggle with certain bosses, and it's on you to decide whether it's worth attempting this run because you've got that boss or this boss, if that's an issue for you. Now, speaking of the bosses, they have those echo mechanics I've talked about in regards to damage reduction types to help with that. Now, a bunch of them are fine. Basically, what happens is you can have 3 echo mechanics that occur while you fight the enemy. The first 2 are usually fine. It's some dude slamming and you just walk away, or maybe it's the one that's doing the cyclones and you just move away from that. But it's the Lilith echoes that are horrible that people seem to really hate, and they are the ones that one-shot most people. There's 4 Lilith echo mechanics possible to my understanding, and you're always going to get 1 Lilith kind of echo in the fight, assuming you actually cause 3 echoes to spawn. It could be the waves that spawn on you in a line, which you just have to walk away from generally. It could be the waves in a triangle with the explosion where Lilith slams down in the center. I think that's probably the worst one. As soon as you see that triangle, you need to get out of it. Use iframes, maximum DR, teleport, movement speed, get out of there. Whereas there's another one that kind of sucks you into the center and then it does an explosion after a delay. Same thing, you just teleport or sprint out of there as quick as you can. One of the more annoying ones, I think, is actually the 3 claw slam slash things that follows with a explosion around it. To avoid that, you just kind of circle around it, so you're trying to stand on its side or behind it, and then as it turns, you're going around it again. Then you got to get away from it on the explosion. Essentially, when that third one's coming, you need to save your mobility, immunity, cooldowns, whatever it is, because you know it's about to happen, and you're going to need them right there and then. But at least understanding how they work should help you. Masterworking itself is an important topic. If you're going to be pushing the pits, you need to be masterworking everything. And I'm not necessarily saying everything should be 12 out of 12. I'm doing fine right now, and everything I have is 8 out of 12. And that's because what I'm hitting on the Masterwork proc really matters. In my case, Golem Mastery and Hellbent Commander are the most important things for me to be hitting with my masterworking. I spent hundreds of millions just getting this chess piece to properly work. It's such a DPS increase for me to masterwork correctly that everything else doesn't matter. For example, on my helmet, the resource gen is absolutely worthless, whereas maximum life, cooldown reduction, even all stats is valuable. So resetting a roll when it's bad is worth doing. Yes, it costs mats. Yes, it costs 5 million, but this is where most of the strength lies and where masterworking is so valuable. So that's my PSA. Hit the thing you need to hit more than raise the level of masterworking generically. This brings us to greater affixes, which are ridiculous. Ideally, we would have the maximum greater affixes on everything. So that would be 3 greater affixes on one piece, and then they're relevant to what your build is. So again, Golem Mastery really matters to me. I have been desperately trying to find a greater affix roll of Golem Mastery, so it would start at +3, I believe. Then I'd be able to upgrade it to +6 total with Masterworking. As you can see, I've got my greater affix on Intelligence instead. It's fine, but certainly not ideal. Greater affixes are just complete RNG. You get them when you get them. You farm tons of drops as best you can. I think Helltide, doing the ritual over and over, is probably the best source of drops in general. You can do everything you can to get greater affixes and the ones that you're looking for, and it might just never happen. There is an option to take out the RNG and trade for it. But I don't mean trading in-game, I mean going to one of the various websites and basically using in-game gold to buy them. I've been selling items there, by the way, and I've made probably about 150 million doing that, significantly faster than doing Whispers on repeat forever, which, by the way, holy crap, increase the amount of gold we get from Whispers or everything we're doing in the game. I'm so sick of farming gold at this point. In any case, trading, it really helps. You can take an item that's worth 50k to 100k and sell it for, I don't know, 2 million, 3 million. It's the average price I'm selling things for. Trading is definitely helpful and necessary right now, but I think Blizzard aren't really facilitating it in a good way, so we're having to use these third-party websites. Also, disclaimer, I'm not sponsored. We're not sponsored by any of them. It's just our only option, and it's genuinely what I'm doing to get gold and the items I need when I need to. Oh, and I've got one last tip for you. Shrine saving. As you clear dungeons, you'll find shrines, and occasionally it'll be something relevant or useful. Sometimes you'll see a shrine when you're clearing the dungeon and you're like, I don't know, 70% of the way through filling the bar to spawn the boss portal. That is when you should save the shrine. Instead of popping it instantly, continue to clear the dungeon 90%, 95% of the bar, and then go back to the shrine, pop it, run and kill more mobs, spawn the boss portal, run in there, and you'll have a shrine buff for the boss kill. That's really helpful. It doesn't always happen. You don't usually get that opportunity, but sometimes you do. You should absolutely take advantage of it. So it's a trick you can use. But yeah, that's basically all the tips and stuff that I want to give you, the different topics and important things to think about. I do hope that helps you. Here's my quick fire feedback for the pits. The rewards suck. We need way higher odds of everything. I won way more gold for clearing these dungeons. We're there in the pits to get materials to masterwork. Masterworking costs loads of gold, even though they've nerfed it like twice. Make pits valuable. Give us more gold for doing them, give us better drops, and you know what? Make it so greater affixes have a much greater chance to drop in pits. The higher level the pit, the more chance you have for greater affixes. There is currently no source of greater affixes in the game other than complete RNG and just spam spawning in items. Pits could be a fantastic way to do that, and it would motivate more people to actually push pits, because currently it's just for the vibes, which is, you know, fine, but not really like great long term. Also, increase the drop rates of the Stygian stones. These are the items here that we use to spawn in the tormented bosses. Most of the ones that I have come from killing world bosses and maybe getting one, or doing like the season journey and the Iron Wolf stuff. Take their drop rates and increase them by 1,000 or something. Make them drop more, way more, at the higher levels. Finally, one-shot mechanics absolutely suck, especially in a game like this that's so jank. We're all playing on a server that's like delayed by half a second. I so often dodge a mechanic and then the game goes, no you didn't, because on my screen I dodged it, but the server said I'm half a second behind, so I got hit. Therefore, one-shot mechanics are so questionable in this game. They did a great job with the tormented bosses tackling that. In the tormented boss fights, you get a debuff when you get hit by a mechanic. It now means you take more damage from everything else. You've earned that debuff because you got hit, but you didn't get one shot, so there's like a bit of buffer. Imagine if the pit bosses and their echo mechanics cannot one shot you, but when you get hit by anything like an auto attack from the boss, you get a stack. At 5 stacks, an echo mechanic will kill you, fair enough. Maybe at higher tiers, less stacks will cause that one shot. Maybe at really high tiers, the stack causes you to slightly be slowed or something. But yeah, quick fire feedback for you and an overall guide to pushing pits. I hope this helped, and if you guys have any extra information or advice, do drop it in the comments. You might help someone. For now then, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thank you for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.